This is Break. Just kidding. This is actually Break. Break is a very, very, very long forgotten mode. As a matter of fact, this is the only image of Break that I can actually find, and it's from an old forum post complaining about the, as you can tell there in F8, the spawn being out of bounds and automatically killing you, which may already set off some alarms that Break was a rather unfinished game mode. And today I want to talk about what Break was, and I think that we should hashtag bring back Break, because Break was a more unique game mode that War Thunder had, and I think that War Thunder has come a long way since it being a map on what was just Poland, I think Kursk maybe. Carpathians is what I definitely remember. And I think the game has come such a long way that we can actually reinstate this game mode. We have a lot more vehicles, we have bigger maps, we have better tools at our disposal to play with. Now, I know a few of you probably saw this video coming because I did a community poll the other day, and my question was, would you be in favor of bringing back the Break game mode for tanks? And out of 790 votes at the time of this recording, which is actually one of my lesser polls, 22% said yes, 1% said no, and 76% said, what is Break? So let's talk about it. Now, from what I remember from what was maybe 2015? I don't even remember now, it's been so long. Break was essentially both teams having two caps. The first cap had to be captured to access the second cap, and both teams had to do it at the exact same time. Funny enough, if I remember correctly, this is where the attack the D point command comes from, and I think this was also on Domination, which would make more sense why it's the D point, but it was kind of more as like a secondary marking rather than being the typical ABC, because, well, Domination existed the whole time. But the attack the D point basically would be a paradropped ammo crate, I believe it was, where if you captured it, the enemy team's tickets would bleed half the percentage of their current tickets. So if the team already had, say, 10,000 tickets left, it would bleed down to 5,000, even if the max tickets were 25,000. What made Break a really interesting game mode was that it wasn't just your average domination game mode that you see in a lot of games, a lot of first-person shooters, or like battle mode, which I still think in War Thunder battle mode is a better mode than domination, because people have more freedom to play on the map rather than be forced to go to certain points of the map that are basically a mid-section engagement. But Break was forcing you to play aggressively while also playing defensively. It was like the best defense is a good offense, because as long as your team could defend your cap, you could go and take the enemy's cap. You could not go and just circumvent the map and go cap that point. You couldn't rush the spawn. That didn't exist, because currently War Thunder is pretty much a spawn camp simulator, considering that everyone knows the map so well and the gameplay's become so stale, really, that there's no other choice other than to effectively grind by spawn camping. But in this mode, you can't do that. From what I can tell, looking at the image, it's kind of low res and really hard to make it out. Seems like the B cap for the blue team was already taken, and now they're on their second point. And I believe Break only ever had 2 objectives per side. I don't think there was ever 3. I know that Eastern Europe was probably the best in terms of design, except for what the spawns were, because the spawns were placed on both plateaus, I guess you could say, of the valley where the town is, and that was actually where people just spawned in, literally no cover at all, and were engaging right out of spawn. Tigers, I remember playing the box tank on it, because it goes back that long. And it just was horrible in terms of spawn design, but the actual idea behind it was both teams had to rush across the river, fight through the town, cap the other person's point, or the other team's point, I should say, and then push up onto the other plateau to cap. And I think there was a third one, but again, I don't remember. And again, that picture was from a forum post of someone complaining about how the spawn was outside of the border. The map, or not the map, I should say, the game mode was so unfinished that They kind of just scrapped it because I don't think it was worth their time at that point. I think that the developers that make the maps, make the game modes, over time have gained a lot of experience, and they could probably revisit the mode again. So that is essentially what killed Break, was that it was a game mode designed at a time where tanks really wasn't even that well put together in terms of what Gaijin wanted, that it just was a bit too early, really. It didn't really deserve to be in game. I think Domination and Battle Mode made a lot more sense to be the first game modes before they experimented, and I think Break was a great idea. It was just executed poorly at a time that it just shouldn't have happened. What you see on screen right now is me playing a custom mission by War Thunder Live user Ride R2, which I will link these missions in the description if I can. I might have to go dig through my links again because these are quite old. These are probably a year old or so it's really hard to search them on the live forums. But anyways, what he did is two kinds of defense game modes, which is basically counterattack and normal defense. The one that you can see that I'm playing right now is the counterattack game mode, which has 3 points to capture before the final point, which is the inside of the town. This is more focused on a slugging kind of combat, close quarters. And what's interesting is where the spawns are for the enemy team. They can go anywhere. This is complete map freedom of the Ardennes map. I think it's called the Bologna now, actually, but I digress. It's a really interesting game mode that I think would take Break and kind of morph it into what Break should have been, because again, both teams attacking and defending makes absolutely no sense at the same time. One team attacking, one team defending makes a lot more sense. I think that this would be fun for a lot of the heavy tank players out there that want to be able to use them in a defensive mode rather than having to constantly push capture points where light tanks and little sneaky TDs are always going to be hiding. Things like the R3 wouldn't even be useful on this because the team would be able to be so concentrated by the cap points that if an R3 drives up to it, you just have a bunch of Shermans with 50 cals ready. So I think that this game mode would benefit a new kind of meta. Not really, I shouldn't really say new kind of meta, but something that would just kind of flavor things up, because right now it just favors fast vehicles. I think that Break on maps like this would work perfectly for tiers 1, 2, 3, and maybe early battle ratings in tier 4. I know that Tigers would probably enjoy this exact setup. This new one, though, is his other version, which is the defense mode. And as you can see, there were some AI Panzer IVs there that were probably just left over. But while I'm driving to the battle, basically, as you can see, this is a different kind of orientation that you're probably used to. We're kind of attacking the map sideways from the normal setup, and it is just straight up one team attacks, one team defends. And I think that it's honestly probably the most fun that you could have. Now, of course, I'm just slugging it out with AI. With players, they would play entirely differently. One thing I do want to mention is that these missions have limited units, as you can see there, so you can just read in the description and see what works. But yeah, other than that itself, as you can tell by the minimap, there's more capture points. This is what Break should have been. This is like kind of like World of Tanks style assault mode, although World of Tanks has just one capture zone. Although I know they have that new game mode, which is kind of larger scale, but this is just straight same normal arena type. This doesn't go on to like big air maps like, you know, what I'm doing with my Gulf War mission. This is just the normal tank maps that Gaijin can work with, the high detail of the tank maps versus the air maps, which are just kind of bland, you know. But there's 3 capture points. The second you capture, like I'm going to capture the B point, the next capture zone in this line you are available to capture. The one thing though is that you should have to capture all 3 fronts, in my opinion. But I'm pretty sure that the other team cannot recap these zones, much like original Break. You can only decap it, and then decap it and then recap it. But if the enemy team fully captures the zone, it instantly is no longer capturable by either team, and then you move up. I think it would be kind of cool if the zone still existed for like ammo replenishment purposes on some of like the bigger maps. Say like you could probably have a multi-objective mode on Kursk or Mozdok. If you play Sim, you know that Mozdok is actually like almost twice as big. So I think that Gaijin could utilize the true potential, the full potential of the existing maps for a little bit more flavor. And I know with World War mode, they've done kind of like certain scenarios, but this is just normal everyday matchmaking. Like, I don't know, like World War mode is not common enough and probably will never be common enough for unique scenarios to even be enjoyable, because they just come and go in World War mode in like an event style. So I think that this specific mission actually would be a really, really interesting demo of sorts that I think a large group of players could play on, which I might actually host that. Although I would like to remove the unit limitations to experience a more common matchmaking occurrence rather than just be limited to like only 3 Jagd Panther spawns, which is just ridiculous. But anyways, I think this mode is like honestly not really going to save ground battles, but it's going to spice things up, because is this mode going to get stale at some point? Yes. But I mean, we haven't seen break in like literally 4 years. So, I mean, this is honestly, they need to step up their game. Now, of course, I know a lot of you that are watching right now have also seen my Cash Cow video, and I do still have my opinions on Gaijin and what I think. I don't really have much faith left in them personally, but I think that they can get this done. I think that a dedicated developer that takes just a little time to actually focus on something, any developer that specializes in doing ground stuff, I think should take a look at this mission and see if they can somehow work this into the normal matchmaker, because 3 caps or battle is just getting old. It's getting old. Conquest is horrible. So many maps in game have positions where the opposite side of the capture zone can either dominate the map or it doesn't, because everyone just goes there and they think that it does because they're used to it in a different orientation. It's just ridiculous at this point, and I don't like Conquest at all. I prefer battle more than Conquest and domination, like I said earlier, because battle allows for a little bit more freedom. It's mainly a team deathmatch. It's a big tank battle, not a capture this piece of dirt. So, you know. Now, I know that this game mode would pique my interest again in World War II vehicles, because, quite frankly, World War II in this game has just gotten so boring for me with the current map formula, I guess you could say. Because this makes heavy tanks be useful. This makes medium tanks be those middle ground. It makes light tanks kind of maybe take a more supporting role, because you can't really flank. I mean, you can flank, but not really. But this would definitely just, I don't know, pique my interest more in heavy tanks again, and some other medium tanks. Now, of course, the question is, would this work for modern vehicles too? Probably. On this exact scenario that you see me playing on now, hell no. No. I think that for modern vehicles to have a break style game mode, which I'm going to actually be analyzing this mission at some point, trying to get it to work for either my Imagino custom mission that people wanted me to make next, or another modern scenario in the future, which I would like to do. But yeah, I don't think modern vehicles would be able to play in anything other than maybe European Province and Mozdok and Fire Arc, because the maps would just have to have points of interest that are just way too close to each other, and it just doesn't seem like a good idea. Definitely playing modern on this would be really funny. But yeah, I think that this could apply to modern tanks and helicopters, you know, the whole combined arms shenanigans, on, say, an air map, which is what I'm going to probably look into doing first. Because, like I said, this would be more of a World War II kind of game mode. And, I mean, Gaijin already puts tiny maps, like the old CBT maps that were meant for Tier 1 and 2 tanks, at top tier already. You know, I know that with night battles with the flares. This would, I know everyone hates night battles, but this would also kind of introduce something more dynamic, like the offensive team getting to launch flares every time a new line is unlocked. I think they could change what this map in particular currently is, and wait for all 3 caps to be taken, and then launch flares on the next offensive. Change it up a little bit. But yeah, ultimately, I think the developers at Gaijin need to look into this, because it's getting very stale. And for those of you who don't know what Break is, I assume you haven't been around long enough to even remember it. If you don't think that domination and battle are stale now, just give it another year or two, and you'll definitely see it. Anyways, guys, that's pretty much it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Steel Wolf, and I'll see you guys next time.